Money is not a capricious riddle. It answers your guidance like a trained force, precisely on the hour after hour. Why does it operate this way? Because an overlooked principle kept out of sight for a long time can turn each hour into a lever that moves you toward abundance. The purpose here is not entertainment, but to awaken what has been dormant within you. You work harder, go without compute, constantly pray, negotiate, yet the current still slips away. It can seem as though an invisible weight blocks your growth. Conditioning urges you to push more, but the real source lies elsewhere in the line you keep repeating to yourself throughout the day. Speak it every hour, and your circumstances will begin to change. This, we are told, is the guidance that was intentionally kept hidden. In 1925, Florence Scovel Shinn, an early figure in practical spirituality, showed ordinary people how to adjust their financial conditions hour by hour in 60-minute cycles. In the Great Depression, when distress flooded society, her students used firm, commanding language and reported debts clearing, opportunities and arrangements appearing, and income increasing even amid disorder. Such outcomes were presented as more than chance. They were attributed to a law functioning in real time. Modern neuroscience now gives names to what she intuited: repeated rhythm, focused attention, and changes in the brain through neuroplasticity. Statements voiced in the first person and present tense can reconfigure neural circuits, guide perception, and adjust decision-making, shaping what you observe, allow in, and respond to. Even the widely discussed water experiments served as a vivid metaphor. Language impresses patterns onto matter. When the imprint is one of abundance, life is said to rearrange around that model. It was predictably uncomfortable for certain interests to see this disseminated broadly. For some groups, it was more desirable that you keep begging instead of declaring remain in delay rather than move into acceptance. As a result, this teaching circulated discreetly, nearly as a secret. Now you take it back. Stay with me. Soon, you will be given the exact phrase, a short practice, and a straightforward way to place a prosperity cadence throughout your day. Your speech sets the tempo and life responds. We begin now. Step 1 is to grasp the spiritual mechanics of language. Florence Scovel Shinn stressed to her students that life is seldom transformed through dramatic gestures. It changes through small moments, repeated with certainty. Every hour is a threshold, and what you state at that entry point does not vanish. It takes root in experience, like a seed set into earth. To her, words were not ornamentation. They were precise instruments that could steer the course of an entire day. Speak unconsciously, and you spread weeds. Speak with certainty, and you sow a crop. This was the force of her teaching. In this perspective, the clock is not merely an instrument. It is the metronome of the spirit. Each hour is a new measure in which speech is said to arrange the real. Florence offered an image her students remembered. Your phrases are drops of ink in a glass of clear water. One drop barely tints it. Repeated drops permeate the entire glass. This is the logic of the hourly decree. A single utterance can pass unnoticed, but repeated in rhythm, it settles into the subconscious, adjusts the body's felt tone, and eventually influences outward circumstances. In 1930s New York, one committed student, a young shop clerk, came to her each week with the same complaint. He labored relentlessly, but never had enough because expenses swallowed everything. Florence gave him a simple regimen. When each hour arrived, he was to speak one strong, authoritative line. At first, he felt self-conscious, but he continued. Notably, within a month, his boss entrusted him with more duties. Soon afterward, he gained a raise, and later that year, he was brought into a small family partnership. Florence told him, "It wasn't the clock that changed your life, it was the constancy of your voice. Every hour you opened the door and gave the right order." To her, the spiritual principle beneath it was clear. The mind easily scatters and the spirit can tire, but an hourly rhythm is portrayed as keeping the channel open to divine intelligence. It is like a persistent war drum beating through turmoil, reminding the ranks that the order remains in force. Over time, your physiology, your choices, and even other people's responses begin to synchronize with that rhythm. This is where many fail. They make an affirmation in the morning and expect immediate wonders, then spend the rest of the day planting complaints, judgment, and language of defeat. Florence compared this to watering a field with clean water first and poison afterward. No seed can survive such mixed signals. For this reason, her instruction was specific. Do not confine the decree to the morning. Speak it every 60 minutes. In doing so, each hour becomes a renewed agreement with life. Practiced in this manner, you step out of autopilot and take ownership of experience, moving through the day in rhythm with your own speech. Step 2 is constancy as strength. Florence Scovel Shinn argued that destiny does not bend to one loud cry. It bends to the persistent drop that gradually carves stone. Repeating a single line each hour may appear insignificant, even childish, yet that steadiness breaks down inner resistance that has formed barriers over many years. She illustrated it through a farmer's lesson: water only once while expecting a miracle, and you will be let down. The moisture disappears, the soil tightens, and the seed dies before it can emerge. In contrast, a grower who irrigates daily understands that even if the soil appears unchanged, roots lengthen unseen until all at once vigorous growth bursts upward. The same holds for the hourly declaration. A decree repeated with fidelity settles layer by layer into the subconscious until it must eventually surface. Florence repeatedly told her students, "Consistency breaks resistance." With that brief sentence, she condensed an entire spiritual practice. Long-standing habits of lack, anxiety, and loss are like tight knots in the rope of life. A sporadic affirmation might loosen them a little, but only persistent repetition, drop by drop, eventually releases them. One student confessed that he had spoken long affirmations every morning for months without seeing change. Florence advised him to abandon heavy solemnity and embrace strict simplicity every hour, in rhythm with the clock. State firmly that all good is flowing to you. The student agreed, and after a few weeks started noticing subtle signs. A late payment was finally received, an unexpected invitation arrived, and an increasing sense emerged of moving with life instead of struggling against it. What had seemed immovable began to yield not through exhausting labor, but through the constant, steady drip of persistence. This approach draws on the mind's tendency to wander. A statement made in the morning can disappear amid worries, news, and casual conversation. If you redirect attention every hour, however, you keep yourself from drifting off course. It is like a ship that repeatedly adjusts its sails and reaches port safely, unlike a ship that corrects once and then later veers away. Constancy is not stiffness. It is rhythm. Florence encouraged her students to regard the practice not as drudgery, but as spiritual breathing, as naturally as breathing in and out one's spoken word should become the day's steady heartbeat. By repeating the decree hour after hour, you behave like an intentional gardener, watering the inner soil with the assurance you speak. Anyone who understands this principle stops waiting for dramatic feats and instead depends on the discipline of small actions, because what is small, repeated in faith, becomes unstoppable. Third step, archetypal examples and spiritual authority. Florence Scovel Shinn did not create this law. She retrieved it and rendered it in words suited to daily life. She reminded her audiences that throughout history, great teachers acknowledged the power of spoken words not as ornament, but as a tool, a key, and a passageway. In her teaching, she cited Moses facing an enslaved people. He did not whisper requests. He spoke with the certainty of one convinced that the sea answers the divine voice. When he raised his staff, he was not bargaining with the waters. He was ordering a road to appear where no route was yet visible. She also referred to Daniel thrown into the lion's den. He did not beg to be spared. He affirmed his faith with such certainty that the beasts became harmless. In that instant, speech functioned like an invisible shield in the night. She also recalled David, a youthful shepherd without armor, facing a giant who frightened trained soldiers. While others whispered loss, he declared victory beforehand. His declaration preceded the deed. His word was the stone striking true before the sling was even loosed. Florence insisted that these accounts are not far-off legends, but symbolic charts of what any person can achieve through speech. For her, scripture operates as a coded manual, demonstrating how a voice charged with faith and certainty alters reality more powerfully than any metal weapon. And for those who preferred to leave aside the biblical context, she expanded the view. Egyptians honored Heka as creative speech. The Vedic tradition throbbed with mantras, and Greek philosophy appealed to the logos as the ordering principle of the universe. Across different forms, cultures arrived at the same conclusion. Reality is shaped first through words, not through stone. Florence saw modern life as having lost this inheritance. Therefore, she repeated, "It is not new. It has always been so." The wise knew it. What we now call affirmation is merely the contemporary form of a power as ancient as life itself. The crucial step is to reclaim that authority. Stop speaking as though defeat were destiny and begin speaking as an heir to a lasting law. Like Moses, Daniel, and David, each person must choose whether their speech will be anxious murmurs or powerful decrees. Florence taught that this second way is not limited to a select few. It is a divine right open to all. Fourth step, select a single phrase to serve as your tuning fork. Florence Scovel Shinn warned that the mind is not a limitless storage room where clarity emerges by stuffing it with hundreds of statements. She likened it to an instrument. Try to tune it to many notes at once, and what results is only noise. For resonance to operate, you need a tuning fork, one stable reference tone that establishes the frequency and draws everything else into harmony. For that reason, she argued, there is no need to learn 100 sentences by heart or recite long inventories. The mind needs a single, clear code, a master key, one central declaration which, when repeated, functions like a tuning fork and brings every inner string into alignment. She taught that repetition is not simply an echo. It is like ringing a bell again and again, until its vibrations pass through walls and fill the whole room. Each repetition of the one phrase strengthens resonance in the subconscious, and that resonance begins to reform external circumstances. Life turns into a mirror of the tone you steadily maintain within. Florence noticed that many beginners arrived weighed down with notebooks of disconnected quotations from guidebooks. They repeated everything without center or grounding, like archers shooting arrows at unrelated targets. The result, predictably, was confusion, exhaustion, and above all, frustration that nothing seemed to change. She would stop them and say again, "The universe responds to a clear command, not a scattered murmur." Therefore, she advised choosing one phrase and not at random. It needed to gather the key pillars of spiritual law, identity, stated in the present tense, harmony with divine order, breadth sufficient to cover every area of life, and an ending under grace, so that what arrives comes without struggle or harm. When she presented the central sentence, Florence urged students not to repeat it mechanically, but to let it vibrate within like a tuning fork that arranges the day. She stressed that the secret is not sheer quantity, but the quality of resonance that remains in awareness. One phrase that is genuinely felt repeated steadily surpasses 100 disconnected lines. In this way, life is said to attune to a single frequency, like crystal glasses trembling in sympathy when one note is sounded. In time, reality aligns in a coherent way with your core declaration. Consistent repetition produces resonance, and resonance then produces results. This is the heart of Florence's approach, holding to one sentence as the tuning fork that sets the pitch for your whole life. Step 5 concerns why so many affirmations seem ineffective. If you tried a few phrases for days and felt discouraged by the absence of change, you are not alone. Millions glance through a guide, grab cheerful lines, mutter them for a week, and then stop, deciding they only deceived themselves. Yet Florence Scovel Shinn warned as early as 1925 that most efforts fail because people affirm too rarely, without certainty and without steadiness. A seed that barely touches the ground and receives no water or care cannot grow. The subconscious, she said, is fertile soil. It does not distinguish wheat from weeds, nourishing seed from harmful growth. It simply develops whatever is planted. If day after day you repeat, "I don't have, life is hard, it's never enough," you are planting thorns inside. The soil does not evaluate the seed, it simply produces it. In this way, people feel surprised by hardship, debt, and lack, even though the real cause was the hidden planting. After encountering affirmations, many use them like an occasional tablet. They speak a sentence once per day, perhaps in front of a mirror, and anticipate a miracle. Florence maintained that the subconscious is not moved by isolated statements, but by consistent repetition and a lasting inner tone. Just as a farmer does not water once but wets the soil daily, protects new shoots, and tends the process, persistence turns seed into a crop. Here lies the clear boundary between dabbling and real change. The dabbler says a line, once notices nothing, and quits. The one who transforms understands that the subconscious requires hourly reinforcement, small regular doses like drops slowly carving stone. Florence called this the rhythm of the word. It is not a single shout, but a maintained cadence like a drum beat that keeps the field vibrating. This is exactly what the hourly practice is, for Florence taught that every 60-minute mark functions as a window through which you can redirect the mind. If you take that moment and place the right sentence there, your subconscious receives a steady and unmistakable compass. Instead of allowing the day to fill with complaining criticism and mental wandering, you use the hourly line as a reset switch. Each repetition clears the ground, pulls up weeds, and replants the seed of abundance. Many affirmations fail because they are infrequent and superficial, spoken only from the conscious mind, without feeling and without reaching through the layers of doubt. The hourly decree, in contrast, carries a different kind of force. Repeated at short intervals, it gradually bores through resistance and reaches the subconscious's fertile ground. Imagine a hammer tapping softly but continuously until the obstruction breaks. This is not aggression, it is unshakable steadiness. Florence said many students were surprised to realize they did not initially believe what they were saying. Declaring "I receive abundance now" while their purse was empty felt unnatural. She told them to continue because the subconscious does not demand complete certainty at the start. It asks for persistence. With each hourly repetition, the sentence settles further in until a tipping point is reached and confidence arises on its own because the inner soil has been trained to contain the new belief. Consider another example: the habitual complainer who repeatedly says, "Everything goes wrong for me," rarely recognizes that they are already affirming. Their results demonstrate the power of speech only aimed inward as self-sabotage. The subconscious obeys, producing more setbacks and lack. The key distinction in Florence's method is not simply that you affirm, but what you affirm, the rhythm you maintain, and the conviction you bring. The hourly decree acts like a light switch when fear or doubt darken the room. It is the farmer watering even on bright, rainless days, trusting the seed's unseen labor. Above all, it is a spiritual discipline, a way to remind the mind of identity and of the instruction you are giving to life. Florence taught that words are not hollow charms, they function as vibrational codes. Spoken once, they barely touch the surface. Spoken every hour, the vibration solidifies into habit, and habit settles into identity. Then doubt no longer feels like a fight because the subconscious begins to cooperate, repeating the decree through your automatic thoughts. So when people claim affirmations do nothing, remember her point. The problem is not that they fail by nature, but that they are practiced incorrectly. It is like blaming a seed for not germinating when it was never given water. What matters most is rhythm and conviction, and the hourly practice combines both in a simple, powerful method. Each hour provides a new reset. Every decree uproots doubt like a weed and replaces it with stronger assurance. Whether you advance or stall depends less on sheer effort than on the quality of the words you continue to plant. The principle has always been plain: the subconscious does not argue. It complies with what you repeat insistently. If you sow complaint, scarcity takes root. If you sow steady decrees, abundance blossoms. Florence Scovel Shinn's most practical legacy is precisely this: the hourly affirmation as a reset lever that redirects the trajectory of your life. Sixth step, the design of an effective decree. Florence Scovel Shinn did not sell hollow catchphrases or sentimental overstatement. She taught a disciplined craft of precision. She held that a well-formed decree operates like a master key that can open a door destiny has kept shut. But like any key, it works only when shaped. Exactly, take away a single notch, and the lock will not turn. Language works the same way. Every component matters and must be included. The first element is identity. Florence stressed that true decrees begin with, "I am not with I want, I need, or one day I will have." Reality responds to, "I am," because it recognizes your innate creative authority. When you say, "I am abundant," you are not expressing a preference. You are claiming an identity, one that carries a power no petition or plea can equal. To say "I will be" pushes the result onto a horizon that keeps retreating. To say "I am" asserts in this moment what already exists in the unseen. For that reason, the second element is present tense. Florence warned that future-focused affirmations are like trains that never arrive. Expressions such as, "I'm going to have, one day I'll have," and "I'm waiting," defer fulfillment and keep it from arriving in the present. The subconscious hears them as commands to delay. That is why she insisted on speaking as though the gift is already here. This is not fantasy. It is alignment with an invisible spiritual reality. When you speak in the present, mind and body ready themselves to receive instead of remaining stuck in postponement. The third element is aligned vocabulary. Florence said, "Language has a tone. Certain phrases crash into circumstances like someone pounding on a locked door, while other phrases move like water following its channel." Calling on harmony, flow, and divine order is not mere ornament. It directs the statement toward cooperation with universal wisdom. To fight your words is to fight life. To align your words is to watch situations rearrange with their own momentum. She compared life to a river. Resisting the current exhausts you, but steering with the stream carries you forward with little strain. Decrees require this musical quality: words that harmonize instead of resist. The fourth component is the blessing of grace. For Florence, grace completes the decree because it admits that reality holds roots your reasoning cannot anticipate. You can calculate budgets, design strategies, and search for exits, but grace opens unexpected entrances and shorter paths beyond your plans. By ending with "under grace and in perfect ways," you hand the rudder to a guidance larger than your own viewpoint. This is not resignation. It is trained spiritual intelligence. You allow life to help you through channels wider than your personal effort. An effective decree then has four teeth: identity that asserts present tense, that energizes alignment, that harmonizes, and grace that opens the way. Leave one out, and the tool loses strength. When these elements come together, they produce a vibrational command that reality cannot disregard. As Florence put it plainly, the word is your wand, and although powerful, it works only with exact use. Decrees spoken from identity, grounded in the present, tuned to harmony, and sealed under grace, become instruments that can reorder conditions into visible, concrete outcomes. Seventh step, intentional commitment. Florence Scovel Shinn observed that failure often arises less from weak desire than from weak commitment. Therefore, speaking was not enough. She also required writing. Put on paper, words cease to be brief sparks and become a spiritual contract. Writing seals a choice in ink in a way the universe interprets as final. Speaking is one act, but fixing your voice in writing is something else. There is a record showing the soul has signed its name. In her New York meetings, she often handed out blank sheets and told participants to write the decree in the present tense with confidence that it would be fulfilled. When you write it, she said, you inscribe it not only on paper, but also in the subconscious. In her image, the pencil becomes a chisel and the mind becomes stone. Each written word is an invisible engraving in awareness that life later mirrors as external events. Florence understood that the mind is changeable, easily scattered, and carried away by the day's currents. So she recommended concrete anchors, small spiritual bells that return you each hour to your agreement. She said, if the mind tends to wander, give it bells that call it back. Today, those bells might be phone alerts, notes on a desk, or symbolic cues placed where you will see them. Each signal confirms that you are still keeping a living covenant through your words. Conscious commitment is not mechanical chanting. It is returning to the center again and again. Florence emphasized that each hour is an open portal, a sacred, unique moment. If you let it go unused, you leave room for doubt and scarcity to return. If you plant your decree every 60 minutes, the weeds find no ground in which to grow. This continuing discipline of writing and repeating is not drudgery. It is training in sovereignty. Just as musicians tune before they play, the soul tunes itself through each attentive repetition. What matters is consistency, not perfection. Florence compared it to the heartbeat. It neither struggles nor stops. It simply sustains life. In the same way, your decree should become the day's natural rhythm. Many students admitted that repeating the decree every hour felt artificial at first. But after weeks of steady practice, the statement became as effortless as breathing. In time, reminders were unnecessary. The conditioned mind began repeating the decree by itself, quietly, even in dreams. At that point, Florence said, the covenant is sealed. Progress no longer depends on conscious strain because the subconscious has accepted the new identity. In short, deliberate commitment means turning a sentence into a way of life, saying it, writing it, and remembering it until it becomes the fabric of your thinking. Once that integration is reached, the decree ceases to be an external ritual and becomes an inner breath. Real power lives there. Excitement for a single day is not enough. The universe answers the coherence of those who keep their word. Each hour stands as a witness, each written line serves as a seal, and each repetition becomes another signature that renews your agreement with abundance. Eighth step, the revealed master statement. Florence Scovel Shinn did not recommend collecting scattered sayings. She maintained that the mind requires one clear key shaped precisely for the subconscious lock, able to open what lies beyond. This key is a brief decree that condenses the force of spiritual law. Its form is simple, and its power comes alive when it is understood and spoken with full conviction. The core line is, I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance, and all good flows to me now, under grace and in miraculous ways. Each word was chosen to harmonize with divine intelligence. This is not simply poetic language, it is a working code meant to shape reality. Consider what it contains. I am. The decree begins in the present because reality does not take the future as a guarantee. Saying I will be or one day communicates ongoing delay. I am asserts identity, it confirms what already exists in the here and now. Florence taught that real change begins when the voice stops merely wishing and starts declaring spiritual fact in perfect harmony. This phrase does not push, it aligns. Harmony is ordered coherence without friction, the confidence that your desires do not oppose what life provides. To be in harmony is to tune the instrument. Once the string is in tune, the music can unfold with ease, with infinite abundance. Here, limitation dissolves. Infinite abundance declares that good cannot be exhausted. In the divine economy, there is no competition and no lack. Florence compared abundance to air. No one fears another person's breathing will reduce their own. It is a boundless sea, and this phrase reminds you that supply is always more than enough and all good. The scope is not limited to money, nor only to opportunities or health. It includes every form of good. This broad decree covers all areas of life. What arrives under this seal does not demand loss or painful trade-offs. It brings fullness, healthy relationships, peace, prosperity, vitality, creativity, and purpose. Flows to me now. These words direct movement. Good is not far away or still. It is a living current arriving without delay. Now ends indefinite waiting. It affirms that good is already coming, and your task is to receive it under grace. This is the crucial safeguard it means without strain, without harm, without sacrificing peace or integrity. A higher wisdom designs just and fitting pathways. In this way, you avoid results gained by force that later turn into burdens. Grace ensures that what comes is rightfully yours and does not arrive with concealed costs. And in miraculous ways. Here, you let go of the urge to control every detail. Florence held that determining the how is not your job because the intellect has limits. Miraculous does not mean impossible. It means unexpected beyond your calculations. It invites life to reveal routes you could not have engineered. When fully integrated, the statement functions like a spiritual tuning fork. It sets awareness in alignment with divine order and sends out a steady, unmistakable tone that reality cannot ignore. Repeating it each hour is like striking that fork again and again. The resonance expands through mind-body decisions and finally external circumstances. Florence explained that each repetition is not only a statement of truth, it is also a signal of your frequency to the universe. Each hour adds another hammer tap that etches the decree into the stone of the subconscious. The change is felt inwardly first. Then it appears outwardly. And when a day arrives without inner contradiction, circumstances arrange themselves to match. Ninth step, daily rhythm and the compounding power of each hour. For Florence Scovel Shinn, verbal power is not a one-time feat, but an ongoing cadence. Each day is a ready field. The seed planted at dawn blooms by afternoon and ripens by night. That is why she insisted on declaring not only once, but every hour, like steady watering that keeps the plant living and productive. Morning functions as the sowing period for intention. Immediately after waking, the mind is pliable on the border, where conscious awareness meets the unconscious, and within that receptive soil, each spoken line takes hold more deeply, like a fresh seed pressed into fertile earth. Florence urged people not to surrender control, to worry at once, but to set direction with a first decree, essentially planting success before the day's noise can disperse uncertainty. Afternoon is the field of upkeep under pressure.
It is the time when problems emerge and external demands pull at attention and faith. Here, steadiness is the separator. The person who stops halfway is like a farmer who plants at dawn but abandons the land in the heat. The soil hardens and the sprouts die.
By contrast, hourly repetition waters again and again, guarding the seed from doubt's dryness and fear's choking weeds. For Florence, words supported by faith create an invisible shield that preserves inner order even as outer turmoil turns. Night is the time of subconscious assimilation. Right before sleep, the last thought you hold gives directives to the mind that keeps operating while you rest. Saying a decree then acts like a seal, setting the subconscious to work through the night on your chosen purpose, like a watchful guardian organizing and tending while the body is still. Florence condensed it into one sharp sentence. What you repeat in faith becomes flesh. The seed image clarifies everything. Growth does not occur overnight by a riverbank, but through regular watering that sustains life until it breaks through. So it is with spoken words. A single statement may excite for a moment. The hourly practice creates an accumulating vibration. Each repetition adds another layer of certainty until it becomes immovable. Once faith reaches a tipping point, manifestation in form becomes inevitable. Florence taught that success is not created by one burst of effort, but by disciplined repetition that reshapes identity. Speaking a decree each hour trains you to receive continually. Thinking is reprogrammed, the subconscious agrees, and life begins to orbit the new signal. This is the compound effect at work. What is small in a single moment becomes enormous over days. That is why the 9th step is so important. Merely knowing the line or saying it once with intensity is not enough. The rhythm is what does the work. Morning plants, afternoon maintains, night integrates, and every hourly pause waters until in time the harvest shows up in your circumstances. Step 10 concerns proof and the maturing of spirit. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that life always answers, though not always through a dramatic breakthrough on the first day. Early signals appear as small subtleties, quiet winks suggesting your decree is already working in the background. A surprising phone call, a meeting that opens a route, a delayed payment arriving. Without an obvious reason, a door that was closed suddenly opening. She called these moments the coins of faith, small pieces of evidence that the law is already acting on your behalf. At first, they may seem like coincidences, but if you pay attention, you will recognize a pattern, details arranging themselves with a precision that is difficult to attribute to chance. Florence stressed the key practice. Notice those early signs, give thanks for them, and regard them as an advance payment on greater results. Whatever you celebrate tends to grow. Here, a major shift occurs. You move from requesting to claiming. Requesting extends a cautious hand, hoping to be granted something. Claiming assumes what already exists in the divine mind and regards it as your rightful inheritance. Florence stated it plainly, nothing is fully yours until you claim it out loud and in faith. That jump marks spiritual maturity, leaving the language of begging and speaking with the voice of an heir. Then, a recognizable pattern appears for a while. Weeks or even months' progress can seem slow. You maintain the hourly rhythm, guard your speech, and hold faith. Signs show up, yet the larger change appears postponed. Florence warned that this stage resembles a seed's hidden development, silent and invisible, yet gathering strength. The impatient pull it up before the sprout appears. Those who trust without seeing eventually witness the miracle. Next comes what she called the sudden leap. After a season of steady accumulation, results pour out as if a dam has broken. An opportunity appears immediately. A burden is removed in a single stroke. A project thought exhausted returns with a renewed strength. To observers, it looks like an instant miracle. In truth, It is the ripened total of many hours, many decrees, and unbroken steadiness. Florence said that at this stage, the student understands the difference between the seeker and the creator. They stop waiting for circumstances and realize that motion began with the first decree, even when it was not yet visible. That confidence is spiritual adulthood, recognizing that the unseen precedes the seen, and that spoken words bridge the distance between them. This 10th step opens into a new self-concept. You begin to notice signals, sense the universe's gentle coordination, and eventually observe what once felt impossible, drawing together and arriving at once. When it happens, you will remember every hour of planting, every repeated phrase, every doubt you endured, and you will know it was not wasted. It was capital placed into the most important undertaking of your life. 10th step, continued impacts beyond the self. Florence Scovel Shinn often stressed a hopeful yet demanding truth. Your speech never operates in isolation. Each decree you maintain reshapes your own world while also grazing the lives around you. The vibration of what you say does not stop at your lips. It moves outward in widening circles, reaching family coworkers, and even strangers who may never know your inner discipline helped them. This appears in everyday moments. A mother who practices an hourly decree may unintentionally radiate calm to her children, easing conflict into harmony and creating a sense of safety. A worker who holds an inward word of order subtly communicates confidence, draws opportunities, and improves the atmosphere at work without preaching. Even a short encounter with a stranger can carry that effect: a smile, a greeting, a different look. Small gestures that can change someone's day. Florence taught that intentional decree is prayer made active. It does not beg from lack. It affirms from certainty. Each hour, you align your speech with abundance, harmony, and grace. You keep a lamp lit in a world crowded with resentment, fear, and haze. Inevitably, that light touches other people. Vibration becomes an invisible field in which many are restored. For that reason, she insisted that real abundance is never ego-centered. When the law responds to your constancy, you gain not only more income, better opportunities, or deeper relationships, you become a channel. As resources grow, your capacity to support, contribute, and share grows as well. Success ceases to be a private prize and becomes a tool for service. This is true prosperity, not hoarding, but circulation. Not grasping, but allowing what comes to you to move through you. At this point, the practice rises. It becomes a consistent intercession on behalf of humanity. Each time you say, "I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance, and all good flows to me now under grace and in miraculous ways," you are doing more than claiming your inheritance. You are affirming that abundance is real, that harmony is possible, and that goodness has a rightful place in the world. Your words operate as collective decrees planted in the shared unconscious. Florence gave a vivid image: when one person elevates their word, others rise with it. Even if invisible, your steadiness creates an atmosphere in which people find open paths without knowing why. This is the peak of spiritual maturity, understanding that your prosperity does not end with you, but overflows as blessing. In this way, what began as a private hourly discipline becomes a quiet service to many. Your inner discipline becomes calm in your home prosperity, in your immediate surroundings, and renewed hope for everyone who crosses your path. You then see that true greatness is not merely receiving gifts, but becoming a lighthouse that radiates abundance, confidence, and grace for the good of all. You have moved through each stage, from understanding the power of speech to keeping a rhythm that can reshape reality hour by hour. What matters now is to seal this understanding within and decide it will not dissolve as a fleeting secret, but become your new way of living. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that abundance does not respond to anxious begging or frantic pursuit. It answers calm command, supported by conviction.
Your words are decrees. Each hour you speak in alignment with infinite abundance, you are sowing into life's unseen field.
That field will answer first through signs, then through outcomes, and finally through harvests. Others may label miraculous. What she shared with her students still stands. Consistency transforms more than sporadic surges ever will. Each decree is like a hammer striking the same spot until the obstruction breaks. With each hourly repetition, thought comes into alignment, vitality rises, and outer conditions begin to adjust. Now the decision is yours. Will you allow automatic thoughts to drive the day? Or will you take the authority to decree, hour by hour, who you are and where you are headed? Reality does not distinguish between an intentional decree and an unchecked complaint. It treats both as directives. You decide which command to give. Inhale and return to your center. No slogans and no checklists, only the living current of a practice that reignites each hour like a remembered heartbeat. The secret is not mystery, it is rhythm. Every hour pause, briefly exhale, steady your posture, and let quiet gratitude, a kind gesture, a beam of light on the table, the aroma of coffee warm your chest. Then decree from identity, not from pleading. I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance, and all good flows to me now under grace and in miraculous ways. That single minute becomes a silent covenant. You seal it with breath and continue. Add no extras and do not rush. You do not bargain with time. It is a small, steady yes that through repetition remakes the day from within. The feeling that carries your words should be quiet, but firm. You are not seeking drama or exclamation marks. The soul cooperates most easily with emotions that are gentle and steady, like patient water. Calling up a memory of gratitude warms the phrase, and that warmth breaks through mental sluggishness. Words are the container. Emotion is the fuel. If numbness or apathy arrives, do not force it. Return to a small memory of being supported. Let that sensation no broader than a thread of sunlight grow inside you. From that place, the decree spreads. Faith builds in layers, not in bursts. This is the lesson of steady tempo. The vibration that seems faint today becomes habit tomorrow, and soon enough, identity. The body also makes declarations. Keep this in mind, because many statements fail, not because they are untrue, but because posture contradicts them. Lengthen the spine, open the chest softly without stiffness, relax the jaw, and let the shoulders drop. Lift your gaze from the floor to the horizon. Rest your hands open as though ready to receive. This is not decoration, it is a channel. An aligned body authorizes the words to move. Each hour before you speak, place a hand on your heart and feel its steady warmth, your inner antenna. From that anchor, the declaration does not push, it lands. And from that rest, it works. More than once you will get caught on small, self-sabotaging lines. The mind carries old reflexes and inserts thorny phrases. I can't, there's none. It's never enough. Here we go again. Don't condemn them. Notice them quickly and change their clothing. Replace them with I choose to learn the next step. Good is on its way under grace. I am supplied in right and perfect ways. Everything cooperates with my good now. You may be surprised how quickly your state shifts after a verbal pivot offered with gentleness and firmness. Correction is not punishment, it is direction. Each hour can also serve this role to catch the microtoxin and transform it before it spreads through the bloodstream of your thinking. One simple practice turns doubt into assurance writing. Keep a small notebook and pencil close and write 2 short lines each day. Note the time and the sign, an unexpected message, a payment released, an invitation, a surprise discount, a hopeful conversation. and add a brief thanks. These entries are coins of faith. Store them like seeds. Revisit them weekly, and you will train your perception to recognize a pattern you once wrote off as coincidence. With attentive eyes, small things become visible. With gratitude, small things multiply. In what you can see, you begin to touch the law that was already operating in what you could not. If you want a clearer metronome, a small number pattern can help without superstition. In the morning, 3 minutes is enough to start the day with calm, breathing gratitude and the central decree. During the day, take 6 well-spaced pauses as beacons that keep you aligned. At the end of the week, sit and name 9 signs, however small. The number is not an idol. It is a pulse. The goal is not counting. It is consistency. If your mind works best with images, give it a 30-second scene. Picture yourself receiving good news. Notice the exact time, the color of light in the room, and the weight of your body in the chair. Feel relief move through you and then fade, leaving the sand clean. End with a gentle thought. Under grace, this aligns now. This is not a movie that replaces action. It is a sketch that helps you recognize the path when it appears. And it will appear because after the decree, you act. Few things are more spiritual than a simple step. Let one question guide you, requiring only minutes of courage. What is the next clear step I can take now? Send the email clear the desk, adjust a budget line, knock on a door, publish what you delayed. Grace opens, your hands move. Some days will be loud. Pressure rises, surprises strike, and moods drop. Even then, nothing is broken. Lengthen the exhale. Remember that events are not identities, and reset with a soul-keeping line. This episode passes. My decree remains. Repeat it again a little slower, trusting that an unhurried pace steadies you. If the feeling lingers, hold it within a truth that does not require denial. I choose to see the order behind the chaos. That is enough. The rhythm returns to its place, and you step back into life with more ground under your feet. Taking without allowing flow creates rigidity. Abundance is like moving water. It respects a clear channel. Allow yourself the joy of giving, of investing in your own growth, and of offering quiet acts that need no audience. You do not buy peace through guilt, and you do not empty your home through impulse. Joyful choosing is a sign of maturity. A river that runs freely cuts new curves. A stagnant pond deteriorates. When you give with integrity, reality reads it as evidence of stability, not as an empty display. Examples truly help the mind settle into trust. A designer who was afraid to state her price did not transform her talent overnight. She changed her frequency. She took up the 1 minute per hour practice, produced a clean and graciously crafted catalog, and stopped apologizing for taking up space. In less than a month, one client paid her fee without debate, another sent a referral, and her calendar started to fill. A tired shopkeeper stopped condemning his shop, renewed the display window, swapped out the muttered line he'd been carrying, envisioned the right customers, and made small, consistent adjustments. 2 weeks later, the impossible major sale came through the door. A teacher in debt decided to face her numbers, clearly ask for fair pay, close the leaks, and maintain the rhythm. The late payment that arrived was only the channel. The real work was the many steady hours she kept. The master key is one and never contradicts itself. For clarity, when situations call for nuance, you express the same law in specific language without weakening its core. You speak of fair compensation when your work is in order, timely payment when the flow needs clearing, clients who value you when business is at stake, and guiding intelligence working for you when decisions weigh in. And you always return to the source harmony with infinite abundance, good flowing now, and grace directing the path. Building the habit calls for a short training period. 21 days are enough for repetition to become second nature. Week 1 sparks, Week 2 stabilizes, Week 3 widens. Gradually, you add more pauses. You notice without fanaticism your speech adjusting to new phrases, your body to a new alignment, and your schedule to better priorities. Outer conditions are shaped by these small choices. You invest time where returns increase, reduce draining conversation, clear the inbox, the drawer, the wallet, throw out what is broken, and give away what can still serve. Your environment teaches the mind to expect respectful treatment. A neat desk is a silent affirmation. When you offer a service, let your speech honor grace as well. Be clear and exact, neither begging nor pushing. Name the problem you solve, describe your approach, state the needed investment, and invite only when it is genuinely the other person's time. Before sending the message, quietly decree that your words reach the right heart without unnecessary embellishment. In relationships, you create alignment through respect. You ask for what is rightful to remain and for what no longer fits to be rearranged without drama. A door closing at the right time can be worth more than 10 that open later. Money, time, and energy form one braided stream. If money is the flow, time forms the channel, and energy determines the slope. KCX set aside 2 daily blocks for your highest return work without interruption. Review each week which tasks lift you and which drain you. Repair small leaks that quietly wear down large results. Ask higher intelligence to order your schedule, and then follow the answer, which comes as practical intuition. Feeling worthy is often tangled with old guilt, misguided vows, or loyalty to scarcity. At the end of the day, speak to yourself kindly. Forgive the times you spoke against your own good, and remember that your inheritance is not bought through blind self-denial. It is recognized through clear, awake presence. Then repeat the central decree once with unhurried breaths and sleep beneath that protection. Night carries on the work. Morning picks up the thread. Some days may seem still. Before discouragement takes hold, ask honestly whether you are maintaining the rhythm or whether old autopilot has returned to the controls. Check whether the feeling beneath your phrase is alive or mechanical, whether you made even one small step today, and whether a complaint slipped out unnoticed. Make gentle adjustments. Prosperity is the craft of tuning. Results do not outrun coherence. They emerge from it. Over time, your identity changes its action from seeker to creator. You move from waiting for signs to issuing orders in a steady voice. You show up with the dignity of someone who knows their worth. You dress with the quiet care of self-respect. And you keep your daily appointment as if you were your most important client. Silence becomes an ally. 10 minutes without screens or noise demonstrates that you can remain with yourself and therefore keep your word without wasting it. In that stillness, inner waters settle, and what matters rises like a clear island. You will notice clear signs that you have crossed a threshold. Complaining becomes bland. Persuasion is no longer needed. Income arrives through channels you did not predict. You can say no without guilt to what is not right, and yes gladly to what is. And gratitude returns for things you once ignored. Hold these recognitions the way one might count stars. After 30 days, create a closing review. Your notes underline the lines that shifted you. Write a brief letter releasing what will not continue, and state simply what you are inviting next month. Standing without theatrics, declare your continued harmony with infinite abundance. Feel one cycle ending and another starting. Mind and spirit both respond to thresholds. As this develops, remember it was never only about you. Your hourly practice lifts your home, your table, your neighborhood. Without fanfare, a new atmosphere forms around you. A child observing learns without knowing it that words can create order. A coworker nearby breathes easier. A stranger you meet with a smile receives an unearned spark of possibility. You decree for others respectfully, never controlling the form it must take. You ask for harmony with abundance and for right paths under grace, and then you release it. Grace arranges details with wisdom beyond calculation. You become a lighthouse, not a judge. In that role, prosperity stops accumulating as a burden and begins moving as service. Comparison falls away when you understand that another person's good confirms your own possibility. You bless their success because it points to open roads, not closed gates against you. Any sting of envy becomes a bell announcing a lesson. You transform the sting into a blessing and keep going, trusting that rivers do not compete to reach the sea. The sea is more than enough. When you are invited to share, describe the process plainly. There is no need for show and no need to hide behind false modesty. State what you practiced, what you learned, and what surprised you. Sometimes the story will be simple, yet it can open doors for those who listen. Testimony helps because it makes what feels far away seem reachable. Planting clarity is itself a kind of prosperity. If one day through fatigue or hurry you forget it all, keep a creased slip in your pocket with 3 kept lines, each hour 1 minute of sovereignty, one present tense phrase the spirit's pulse. I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance, and all good flows to me now under grace and in miraculous ways. You continue because the music has not stopped. The hour calls you once more, and like returning home, you answer quietly without ritual. Ordinary life becomes your altar. Even a glass of water on the table is offering enough. Each drink reminds you that abundance rarely arrives with thunder. More often, it is a tiny adjustment that over days carries you to an entirely different shore. The millimeters are invisible, yet the kilometers seem to arrive at once, and others name it a miracle. One steady feeling to carry it forward, uncomplicated gratitude. The rest will return through grace. Begin again exactly where you are, without blaming yourself. One brick placed after another builds a wall. One drop falling over time shapes the stone. One mindful minute each hour is enough to remake a day. Later, when things finally align and people claim that overnight contracts ease or opportunities appeared, you will smile like someone who knows they were there each hour planting quietly. It will not have been luck. It will have been the law in motion. And when that law is honored without fanaticism and with steady warmth, it shows itself as a visible ally. Your language will move from chasing to inviting. Life more responsive than we tend to assume will answer in a matching rhythm. With deepened calm, you will realize you did not come to beg. You came to remember. Your inheritance stops hovering as a promise and becomes a lived practice. Your words establish the tempo, and the universe, as always, keeps step with you. You continue because the music is still playing. The hour calls again, and like returning home, you answer plainly without ceremony. Ordinary life becomes your altar. Even a glass of water on the table is offering enough. Each sip reminds you that abundance rarely arrives with thunder. More often, it is a small correction that over days places you on a wholly new shore. The millimeters are invisible, yet the kilometers seem to appear at once, and observers call it a miracle. You understand what closed the gap 1 minute each hour, one sustained decree, and a clear willingness to act. When the unexpected arrives, you notice your language has shifted. The old habit of rushing falls away like clothing that never fit. You step inward twice and listen patiently for the guidance that was ready all along. Organize, get clear set priorities, say no, say yes, negotiate with respect, ask without shame. The decree held in quiet hours becomes spoken words and guides the interaction. Without strain, you keep a center that cannot be bought, only cultivated. Little by little, that grounded center tilts outcomes in your favor. Some mornings move slowly, and even words feel weighty. That is exactly where grace proves its strength. It does not demand perfection, only willingness. Sit with your cup, rest a hand on your heart. Breathe as you can and say the minimum with full honesty. I am in perfect harmony. Then pause. Notice resistance and welcome it. Do not fight the doubting part. Take it gently by the arm and bring it with you. Doubt, welcomed hourly without blame, learns the rhythm as well. The drama drains away and steadiness appears. Steadiness is a luxury. It permits clear choice while others confuse noise for signal. Money begins to behave like a partner once you stop treating it as an enemy or a judge. Instead of condemning what is lacking, you honor what is here, and even small amounts receive your respect. You pay with gratitude, you receive with gratitude, and you engage your numbers without superstition. The care you bring to bookkeeping creates space for larger sums to enter. You neither romanticize scarcity nor feel ashamed of abundance. You learn to hold both banks at once: discipline with delight, order with play, planning with surprise. Grace does not replace technique, it lives within it. On an ordinary day, in the middle of routine, a clear clarity arrives. You realize this method is not one more box to tick, it is the quiet framework supporting everything else. The call that once made your voice tremble now happens with an ease you did not anticipate. The budget that once blurred your sight becomes clear like a river after rain. You stop choosing from fear and begin choosing from genuine fit. What merely glitters loses its hold. What truly belongs, even when it requires patience, draws you with calm certainty. Quiet gratitude becomes natural. Not the performative kind that seeks an audience, but the deeper kind that simply bows and recognizes the thread that carried you. Practiced often, that modest gesture refines character. Someone rooted in real gratitude becomes resistant to others' complaints without turning cold. They perceive needs without absorbing other people's storms. They assist without entangling themselves and set boundaries without harshness. Seen this way, abundance stops being a number and becomes a manner of presence. You may recall a line attributed to Florence. The word is your wand, but the hand that holds it is you. You do not wave it carelessly. You raise it with intention. Present tense identity becomes habit, and habit hardens into character. The atmosphere at home changes. Workplace silences soften. Within your decisions, a rhythm forms that, though unheard, is felt by all. Someone will ask for your counsel, and you will respond with words that are few, clear, and precise. Prosperity learned gently spreads through example, not sermons. When a major change comes, the method stays the same and becomes your anchor. A move, a contract, an ending, a beginning. The night before you write clearly what you choose in the present, say it once sleep as if posting a guard at the door, and wake to find that guard already at work. Throughout the day, each hour, you add your signature again. If the path becomes hard, return to the body. The body is a reliable tether. Breathe, lengthen, remember, speak. Things will realign with the precision that may not be immediate, yet will prove exact when its time arrives. You do not retreat from practical life. You understand invoices, expenses, schedules, and deadlines. For that very reason, your word carries weight. It does not pretend to replace the work that only action can finish. It accompanies action, directs it, steadies it, and gives it meaning. Any craft is raised when grounded in inner order. Clients feel it without naming it. Colleagues depend on it. Opportunities return not by chance, but by coherence. When evening comes and your body wants rest, sit on the edge of the bed and review the planting. Perhaps the day was uneven. Perhaps it was beautifully complete. Either way, meet it the same with gratitude and with learning. Write 3 short lines, close your eyes, and release it. Night will do its part. You do not need to guard the seed. Simply tend the soil again at dawn. And as months turn, you find yourself standing in a changed landscape. There is no fanfare, only quiet confirmation.
The person you were a year ago could look across the distance and recognize you at once, still you, yet standing straighter, speaking with less clutter, and looking out with a gaze softened by grace.
Money now circulates in a healthy way, allowing you to say yes where you once declined, and to say no where fear once pushed you into an unwilling yes. Your calendar reflects priorities you no longer trade away for approval. Your conversations sound like the person you meant to become. Something in your home glows without display. Something in your expression finally settles and rests. If someone asks about the secret, you answer calmly that there was no gimmick. There was simply law in operation and your decision to honor it with consistency. There was one short sentence spoken every hour, and the quiet courage to act in alignment with it, to organize what needed order, release what no longer served, remain steady through lean periods. Celebrate what you learned and keep resources circulating.
Above all, you refused to be governed by noise and chose your own deliberate rhythm instead. Now return again, as if for the first time, to the line that sustains you.
Say it with the steady tone of someone speaking their own name in an echoing hall. I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance, and all good flows to me now under grace and in miraculous ways.
Stay for a heartbeat in the quiet that comes after, like the sea settling after a wave breaks. That hush is a language too. From that stillness, step back into life. The outer scene may look the same, yet you are not the same, and because you have changed, the same begins to reshape itself around you.
Before we end, I invite you to affirm with steady conviction these seals that ground and consolidate what you've learned. I am in perfect harmony with infinite abundance.
All good comes to me now. Under grace and in miraculous ways, my life grows in prosperity.
Each hour, my words shape my reality. I completely trust the divine intelligence acting on my behalf.
Hold these lines near, repeat them like a heartbeat. Let them become your new rhythm of breath. As your speech ripens into disciplined practice, destiny begins to answer and come into alignment.
So these sentences do not remain only words. I invite a present tense commitment right in the comments. I decree it. By doing so, you not only note it here, you impress it into your subconscious and into the universal field. That written act becomes a spiritual contract, your signature before divine intelligence. And do not keep this only for yourself. Share the message with those who need to reawaken their creative power. As your speech reshapes your own world, the deliberate words of thousands can reshape a generation. Remember, abundance does not wait for hesitation. It responds to those who speak with authority. Today, you hold the code in your hands, able to turn ordinary hours into tangible, visible miracles.